Hello and welcome to Everstage's Go-To Masters France Fireside podcast. We interview the GTM and finance leaders from today's most dynamic companies. Their unique insights and hard-earned lessons and innovative visions are the stories that we bring to you weekly. Joining us today is Pinky Raina, CFO at Ideas Industries. Great to have you here with us on this podcast. Before getting started, could you give us a brief introduction?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So I'm a seasoned finance executive that leads with a collaborative style, managing, manufacturing businesses, which has been my primary, industry. But previously to this role, I was actually also the CFO of a sporting industry. So when they say finance function is industry agnostic, I'm a living proof of that.
Awesome. You wouldn't believe, but we have been running this for quite some time, and someone with your unique profile is actually hard to come by. And I'm super excited to talk to you today because of the wealth of, I wouldn't say, the depth, it more the breadth and the depth of knowledge that you bring to the table. Uh, Maybe to start off, if you can give us a peek into how, your leadership style or your leadership role got made based on all the experiences you collected from the different industries and the different roles that you held in different industries to be where you are today as CFO at, you know.
So I think one of the things that's important to understand is that you never quit learning in these leadership positions. So that's constant information that you're learning from different sources, and different industries sometimes give you different perspectives. So I'll give you a classic example. Traditionally in finance, you can deem that any expense is a cost for the business, and you want to reduce expenses. So while I was in my role in the sporting industry, I remember the chief commercial officer made a comment to me, and he said, we are a not for profit, and in our not for profit organization, we are actually investing in the growth of soccer as a sport. So, so that investment, though an expense, is an investment. So we want to make sure that we're making those, respective expense, even though if it might be of a large nature. So me coming into that role initially was, well, these are all these places and all that where we can take costs out. And he said, be careful if there's a long-term value for it, then let's ensure that we are not, being very quick to jump to conclusions and in taking that expenses out. And I think if you take that same lesson and put it in a for-profit industry, it's the R&D of a business. There are certain businesses that have zero R&D investment, and there are other businesses that have a significant R&D investment. And when results are not to what the expectations are, the first place business normally tend to go to is R&D, because you don't see the value of that cost in the current
Yeah,
year P&L.
yeah.
So you're quick to say, hey, you know what? I can take $1 million out of my R&D budget because that was investing for the future 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So you can really take that same concept and relate it into a manufacturing company or any company that's doing R&D. So it's important to, again, as you go through these industries, like take those valuable nuggets and learn, and then not be shy to apply it across the industries.
Maybe just leading out from there, what do you think are personally for you like key pivots uh, in changing the way you make decisions or even in your leadership style? Like what critically changed you from when you started out to today?
Collaboration. I think when you come in, you are ready to conquer the world, and see finance as the center of the universe, and finance is basically going to tell all the businesses a different function what to do and how to do it. But you learn over time that, while you may have a good lens into the overall, finances of the organization and what the spend is, you you really need to understand from each function, marketing, HR, IT, what they're doing and why they're doing it, and that collaboration and having that lens and understanding of how they see their respective function, or if you're in a portfolio company, their respective portfolio business is a critical piece to really coming to the best solution for the company as a whole.
Awesome. I think on the same vein, you have also spoken about how your leadership style needs to adapt to different cultures, business cultures versus expecting things to change according to how you want it. Can you share a little bit more on what that means?
Yeah, so adaptability and versatility are like critical key attributes I feel of a successful finance person, because there's, as you move through industries or as you move through teams, what you need to ask yourself is, do you need to change the team, or do you need to change yourself in terms of how you're managing it? Do you need to change how the business views itself, or do you need to change how you view the business? And 9 times out of 10, it is really more of an inward looking, where you just need to get yourself aligned to the perspective of the business and what they've been doing, and actually appreciate and value what has been done, and not try to reinvent the wheel. Coming in there and being that trailblazer and saying, "Hey, you know what? I think I know how to fix how the business thinks about itself, or I think I know how we need to run the finance function to best support the business." There are probably things that are already going well that you don't need to do anything with.
Yeah, and then then it just constantly, like, you have been segueing into my next question. So what I wanted to then ask you was, how do you evaluate whether this is a successful business or not, or what success in finance looks like? Like, you have a lot of noise coming in from everywhere. How do you say, hey, this is success in finance versus, hey, this is probably not, and we need to fix things? So how do you decide those things?
Um, so, with commercial, they always say voice of customer. And I'll say in finance, it's also the voice of customer, except all of your customers are internal to the organization, except for potentially the board, right? That they are external to to the company, or if you're in a public company, then analysts, right? I mean, but those are your customers in finance. So what you need to make sure that you're hearing, what area that they feel is not at the level that it needs to be. And generally, what ends up happening is FP&A tends to be the most outward deliverable from finance. So people tend to hone in on FP&A and say, hey, am I getting a good story out of FP&A? Are they doing the right level of analytics? And what I would say to that is, you actually need to take a step back. You don't get to FP&A straight away. In order for you to have a solid FP&A function and have the analytics and that capability within finance, you first need to focus on the foundation. So what's important in the foundation is, do you have all the accounting right? Do you have the right people doing the accounting work? Do you have all the internal control? Do you have the right people managing the internal control? Do you have the right technology? We tend to find, especially as we're in this race for AI, that everybody's like, okay, well, what is your function doing with AI? And it's like, but I've got 15 different ERP systems. So should my first priority be to get everybody on the same ERP system? Should I be centralizing it? Do I have the right data? Do I need to clear my data, clean my data? So we tend to sometimes like jump to, you know, whatever is most outward, or whatever is the buzz in the marketplace as determinant of success. But really, there's like a step-by-step process of foundation that you need to make sure is solid to build a solid FP&A function, to build a solid AI strategy.
Awesome. Amazing. And I think what comes out is you're also able to give yourself that time to get these things time with all the noise going around, which is actually quite difficult to do when you're working in companies that are super big and you have a lot of expectations placed on you.
I totally agree, because I think what ends up happening is, we normally, I guess, just the human nature is, what is the person to your right doing? What is the person to your left doing? What is this company doing? What's that company doing? So we tend to always, benchmark ourselves to how things are happening around us. That's not a bad thing, because you just don't want to be inward looking. However, you are in the best position to understand what is going on in your company, what are the capabilities and limitations of your company. So I would say, initially, make yourself your competition and say, what is my expectation for the finance function for my organization? And when you feel like you have achieved what your expectations are of the finance function for your business, then start looking at, in the spirit of continuous improvement, and saying, hey, you know what, what more can I do? Then start looking at your competition and saying, hey, are there other things that I can incorporate in rather than being completely overwhelmed and saying, I'm going to start from a position of I'm not doing anything right and look at everybody else and look at everything that they're doing so well. So I don't even know where to start now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We are in a startup here, and our goalposts are moving every second that we are late to our task. So, I mean, to keep the balance of getting the basics done while also being conscious of where things are changing is, I mean, super difficult. That's why I was talking about the time that you are able to invest, and that's critical, right? Because you're able to sit and say, hey, this is what I'll do today, or this month, or this year. And that's, I think, super interesting.
Yeah, it
Something
can be
that
a
I've
cut,
learned.
copy, paste exercise, right? And that's why I feel like the different industries that I've gone to and the different teams I've dealt with has given me the appreciation of that, that what worked in one company is not necessarily going to work in the other. So you really need to invest the time to understand the new business that you're going into. You really need to take the time to understand the new team that you're inheriting. And based on that, kind of make an assessment of where the finance function needs to go rather than saying, well, these 5 things worked in my previous roles. I'm just going to take those 5 things and
Let's just
apply
do
it
that.
over here. And yeah, should
Yeah.
be simple.
You mentioned you're a collaborative leader in your brief introduction, which tells me you take pride in building champions from your team. What's the secret sauce, and what would you advise women, particularly aiming for senior roles, to ensure that they are also champions and they are able to nurture more champions in the team? So how do you build your team basically?
Yeah. So I say team characteristics equals team culture. And as you think about each individual that makes up the team, there are certain things that I'm looking for. One is humility. You can never be bigger than the collective team. So humility for me is really important. Given we're in the finance function, integrity.
Mm,
Integrity is critical as well. With the
non-negotiable.
consulting, yeah, non-negotiable, exactly. With the consulting roles that I've had, I lean on a solution-oriented mindset. Right? We always get into, well, here's a problem and here's a problem and here's a problem, and it's like, okay, but as we are in our position, we're there to solve problems. So if we don't have a solution-oriented mindset, we're just going to kind of continue to go in this swirl. So that is important. So those are 3 things that I really lean into. And then the fourth one I would say is continuous improvement mindset. So don't ever be satisfied. Always push to make it better. The improvement could be incremental, it could be negligible, but it's still an improvement. But as long as you continuously have that continuous improvement mindset, I think it is also going to keep the team motivated and challenged to continue to push the bar because that continuous improvement is showing a continual impact that you're making to the organization.
Pinky, it's interesting you talk about humility. Is it possible for you to just distill that a little bit for our audiences?
Yeah, I think humility I describe as low ego. I know that all of us kind of come into our different roles. We potentially accomplished great things at previous companies, or we've accomplished great things in our college. But if you come from a position of I don't have all the answers. And I'm part of this team where I am learning from people below me, from above me, alongside me, and keeping that open mind and openness to not always being the decision maker, but making that decision making really a piece where whatever is the best solution or best response is what is driving that. I think is kind of you keep your humility in check because you're not always the one who's answering the question, or you're not always the one who has the smartest or the best answer.
I find sometimes this humility plays out in a different angle where I find it's also helping you learn because you understand that you may not have everything, which means, especially, right, we keep talking about AI. In the world of AI, it enables me to not dismiss AI. It enables me to understand that, hey, I probably don't know enough. Can I just go look up and understand more? So that's probably my angle on why I wanted you to drill down into that. But
Yeah.
amazing. Totally appreciate it. Just to also carry this forward a little bit, as a leader in business, what do you have to say to women who are coming up in key business roles? How do you think they should pace themselves and they should figure this out?
So I always say, how do you make yourself marketable? right? And marketability, at the end of the day, it's not something that only the commercial team does, where they're trying to make sure that our products are marketable, or that the new product development and the engineers do to make sure that we're coming up with new products. It's how you as an individual make yourself marketable. And what I find marketability, from a finance perspective, comes from is really building out your depth and breadth of your capability, right? So I might start off as an external auditor. I started off as an external auditor in Deloitte. That gave me my internal controls understanding. It gave me, a preview into, how to ask questions and have that analytical questioning mindset. And then I kind of moved into the finance side, and I got the understanding from from a finance perspective of what finance is and how finance works with operations, and what are the elements of FP&A that we really need to, hone in on. And then I got into a CFO role at um, the US Soccer. I learned about managing the treasury side of it, managing board relations. So you're continually expanding that breadth of the skill set that is required to be effective in finance, but not forgetting that there's also a depth. So I just don't need to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I know what internal controls is. Well, can you do a 3-month rotation at an internal audit in your company and get an opportunity to really understand what internal controls does, so that you know it, a bit more than just, yes, internal controls is important, and yeah, I just need to make sure that when an internal audit comes, that I get a clean bill, right? So that depth and breadth, I would say, helps kind of your marketability. So that's critically important. And then the other is relationship building. And it's not only relationship building within your team, it's relationship building across the organization and commercial and operations, so that you're getting a broader view of the business side as well. So the combination of understanding the business better and understanding all the capabilities of what finance offers, that helps with, you know, making yourself more marketable.
Fantastic. And obviously, we'll have to close out with the flavor of the season, which is AI. So, what is your personal take on AI, and how is it enhancing productivity either in your org or maybe even in your personal life?
So I'll say it in two things. One is from a foundational standpoint, that a lot of you know organizations are trying to jump to AI, and they're like, okay, what can AI do for me? But they lack that foundation of centralized ERP systems, or access to data, or clean data. You need to have centralized clean data in order to be able to really leverage AI. Once you're at a point that you have actually been able to get to a point where you've got that centralization and the clean data, then the next step is, how do you want to leverage AI? And a lot of people right now are kind of the, oh my God, AI is going to take my job. And at least for finance, what I say is, finance has got so much transactional work in it. And we are constantly being pushed, how can you be more value add organization? How can you spend more time analyzing? How can you spend more time being forward looking? How can you spend more
Mm,
time, modeling all these what if scenarios of, if this happens, then what happens? Right now, without having AI and without having this good uh, centralized ERP systems, we spend 70% of our time on the transactional side. So I see AI as an opportunity for finance functions to become less transactional. We will always have transactional work, but taking maybe a 70% of our time spent on transactional work and 30% spent on value add work, and flipping that to 30% of our time is spent on transactional work because AI is helping us there, and 70% of our time is spent on value add. So then, clearly, as we kind of talked about in an earlier setting, right? What does success look like for finance, and FP&A being that, you know, uh, front facing part of finance that a lot of stakeholders see, that success will then be more visible and noticeable for the organization.
correct. Amazing. So, I think it's been a very, uh, very well stitched conversation in the sense that I was able to understand a lot of things from your perspective, especially like I said at the start, you come from industries that we all, look up to, like soccer, sports. manufacturing is, like out there. We can always say everything is manufacturing, but there are very specific definitions and nuances within the manufacturing. And like you said in an earlier question, each of them have their own ways to handle things and where you go and learn their way and do it. So I'm sure, you have learned a lot, and thanks for sharing some of that with us. But before we end, I wanted to ask if you had any closing comments and thoughts that you wanted to leave us with in terms of how do we go about our own uh, lives as professionals, and how do we build our career forward in a very successful way.
Yeah, so I think there would be three things that I would say keep in mind as you are progressing in your career. One of them I've kind of touched on through the word collaboration is partnership. So ensure that you're being a good partner. And what I mean by that is, think of yourself as a person who is in finance, but when you are collaborating with your partners, try to make it simple and be finance for non-finance folks, right? So try to take your message and show a WIFM, a what's in it for me. So marketing, why should you be interested in what I'm sharing with you about the finance data? HR, why should you be interested in what I'm sharing over here? So try to think about it from their perspective. And I think it will really help your partnership with them, because if you're just sharing all this data, well, yeah, this is 10% up and that's 10% down and it's 15% and you have a variance here, they're going to look at you like, okay, what do you want from me? So I would say that that partnership is really important. The other I'd say is I brought it up in the characteristics, right? One of the thing is to be solution oriented. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to simplify um, problems that you're trying to solve. And when you're trying to simplify problems, there's a lot of information that's being thrown at you. So how do get to a point where you're trying to solve the problem? You try to ask a simple question, and the question that you ask is, but what am I trying to solve for? And you keep on repeating that, but what am I trying to solve for? We've got all these issues over here. The customers are not happy. This is not happy. Okay, great. But what are we trying to solve for? Is the customer the issue? Is the product quality an issue? Is not having the right bandwidth on the team the issue? Are there market forces that the issue? So until you really know what it is that is the key root cause problem, it's going to be really hard to solve for that, because you're going to be in this constant state of flux that you're going to throw ideas, but you're potentially not solving the problem that is inherent. And then the final thing I will say is EQ, emotional intelligence. We get put in very stressful situations. We've got our budget time. Sometimes they're like really tight deadlines. So we really need to make sure that we've got good emotional intelligence to be able to navigate the organization and navigate the tough conversations and really come to it from a standpoint of we're able to get what we need, but we are showing up as good finance partners, but also as good finance stewards.
Yeah. You have no idea how many times EQ has come up in this podcast of operations and finance. Um, but I think it's very key. I oversimplify it sometimes and say empathy, but it boils down to at some level, EQ and being present and understanding what's going on. Uh, Thank you so much for your time, Pinky. I'm sure, it wouldn't have been easy to allocate this time for us. So I really, really appreciate the time that you spent here at the podcast.
Now, this is something which is very important to me, because I'm very committed to ensuring that the future leaders have some of this to go back on, that they can refer to and say, hey, these are some important learnings that others have had. So it's paving the way, so there's at least this knowledge and appreciation for that they're not alone in this, and all of us have sort of gone through this journey. And as they experience the same struggles or the risks that we current leaders have, they can learn from that and be even better leaders for tomorrow.
Well, that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Go to Masters podcast. A big thank you to Pinky for sharing her experiences and valuable insights with us. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from game changers driving hyper growth companies across the globe. Go to Masters is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales compensation. I'm your host, signing off.